I call this meeting to order. Let us rise for the national anthem.
जन गण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता। पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा। विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा। तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे। गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता। जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे।
So welcome everybody to today's our weekly meeting. On behalf of Rotary Club of Pune Shivaji Nagar, I welcome our chief speaker today, Mr. Pramil Jindal. Thank you very much for sparing time today, and we look forward to interesting session where probably you will explain to us the intricacies of beer, wine, and whiskey. And hopefully, we will have a real life session sometime later in the year, courtesy both you and Achyut. Uh, Before I hand over the forum to you, sir, we have to finish some Rotary business. So I will try to finish the Rotary business as early as possible and hand over the stage to you.
Okay, thank you. I'll wait for that. Thanks.
Yeah. First, congratulations messages. Congratulations to our PDG, Dr. Deepak Shikarpur. He has been selected for the Excellence Award for his contribution to career counseling of IT professionals and students. During last month, we had also organized this lecture for the Rotaract Club in Modern College of Arts, Science and Commerce, and everybody enjoyed that session, and they were briefed about what are the career opportunities. And Deepak is very passionate about this subject currently. Right selection for the award. This award will be presented on 15th September by Padma Shri Leela Poonawalla. Deepak, congratulations once again, and continue your passion of counseling the IT professionals.
Thank you, Sharon.
Our own Rotarian, Nitin Naik, he is also selected for Excellence Award. Nitin Naik operates his own company called Cubic Tech, and Cubic Tech has done exemplary work in the last 6 months in the IT field during the COVID period. His contribution is recognized by the Global India Business Forum, and he will be also presented the award on 15th September by Padma Shri Leela Poonawalla. I'm not sure whether Nitin is here today or not, but Nitin,
I'm there.
Nitin, thank you very much, and congratulations once again on behalf of all our club members.
Thank you very much to all.
One more feat this week, our team of Rotarian Sandeep Tapasvi and Annette Saloni Tapasvi, they have qualified for the semi-final rounds of Pride Karandak, which is a debating competition. They participated under the English language category, and tomorrow is the first semi-final. Congratulations, Tapasvi and
Thank
best
you.
of luck. Best of luck for semi-finals.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Really look forward to both of you bringing the cup, the current deck to Rotary Club of Pune Shivaji Nagar.
We'll try. Thank you.
Next, congratulations is due to our past president Pradeep Wagh. He has been extraordinarily active in the enterprise education field. He has organized a 5-part webinar series. Last week, on 12th September, he conducted the 4th session along with our district literacy team. Pradeep Wagh
Thank
was
you.
Pradeep Wagh was specially acknowledged by the district team for his contribution in organizing this webinar series, which has benefited protractors and all the interested participants. Pradeep, keep doing such exemplary work. Congratulations once again.
थँक्यू शरद. थँक्यू एव्हरीबडी. आपले बरेचसे मेंबर्स पण त्यात पार्टिसिपंट असतात, त्यांचं सगळ्यांचं पण अभिनंदन. थँक्यू.
Thank you. Now, I hand over the mic to Secretary Ravi Kiran for the birthdays during this week. Over to you, Ravi Kiran. Please unmute yourself.
Thank you. Thank you, Sharad. On 17th September, Dr. Deepashri Sathe, she has a birthday. So a very happy birthday and best wishes from our club.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks. So thank you, Sharad. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Ravi Kiran. Let's briefly review what activities have happened during the last week. Last week was relatively quiet on the physical activity front because of the unique situation which we are in. Not many people are going out and physical projects are really not happening. So our emphasis has been on virtual sessions. We had a virtual session, we have a group called Adhyatma Jidnyasa, and the interested participants participate. This group meets once in a month. On 10th September, our own PP Shekhar, he took the last session of Ganesh Vidya. 25 Rotarians and ANS participated in this session. Very informative as usual. Our Rotarian Sanjeev Chaudhary and Anne Shobhana Date also participated in the Pride Current debating competition under Marathi category. We already have congratulated both Sandeep and Annette Saloni for their onward march to semi-finals and hopefully to the finals. And Pratima Durukkar has started a new interest group in the club. We call it Heritage Katta. And both Pratima and Pradeep, they are very passionate about Indology. Last year, she conducted one session and that triggered this spark. And everybody felt that we should have a group which is interested in knowing more about Indology. So the first session was conducted by Pratima on 11th September on the topic of Hadappa culture. Very interesting, very informative, very knowledgeable session. Thank you, Pratima. So these are the activities that have happened. One more feather in our cap was the acknowledgement by Rotary District 3131 for our contribution to the project Digital Guru Mantra. We came first in the district out of 135 clubs, our club was the first by registering 1,904 teachers. Whole credit goes to Brunda and Nitin Dada for the way they contacted the teachers and enrolled them. Once again, I would like to acknowledge both Nitin and Brunda for the excellent work.
Thank you, Sharad.
Thank you. So I think we are at the end of the uh, Rotary business. Now I would request Prashant to introduce our today's guest. Prashant, you can unmute yourself. And
Sharad, I'm introducing.
huh?
I am introducing him.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Oh, sorry. Achyut, please unmute yourself.
Yes. I am unmuted.
Yeah, go ahead.
Good evening, friends. It's my great pleasure to introduce to you our chief guest of the evening, my dear friend, Mr. Pramil Jindal. We did our chemical engineering from Institute of Technology, Banaras Hindu University in the year 1977. After graduation, he went to Scotland to do a course in brewery from Harriet Watt University in Edinburgh. After coming back, he joined the company founded by his father, Barmalt India Limited, engaged in business of making malt. Within few years, he modernized and expanded the plant in Gurgaon to become a leading manufacturer of malt in the country. He can be rightfully called Malt King of India. As Gurgaon started growing, it was becoming difficult to run a process plant there. So he built two plants, state-of-the-art plants, one in Dharuheda in Haryana and the second one in Kotputli in Rajasthan. I will share the photographs. This one is in Khaliawas, Haryana. And this one is in Kotputli, Rajasthan. Malt is the major raw material for making beer, malt whiskey, and also health food. So next time you are having your evening drink, Budweiser, Carlsberg, or any other beer, or Paul John, Amrut, or any other malt whiskey, or if your grandchildren are having their morning drink of Bournvita, Horlicks, Boost, please remember that the major component of it. He will be speaking to us today about the subject very close to our hearts, beer, and to start his talk.
Thank you, Achyut, for the nice introduction of our today's speaker. Now I think I will make Pramil as the host and he can start sharing the screen.
You have to make him host.
Yeah, only request to Pramil is after the end of your talk, you please make me host once again. And when you are giving the talk, you can mute all the participants. That is the protocol that we follow. And don't allow anybody to unmute till the time your talk is over.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Sharadji.
I'll just make you speaker. Yeah. Just give me a minute.
Okay.
Host, sorry. Yeah, Pramil, you are the host now.
Yeah. Can you see me now?
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah. Can you see the slide?
Yes.
And how do I
You can unmute you can mute everybody.
mute all? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mute all. Is that fine? Yeah, that's okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we are hearing Praveen.
Okay, good. Okay, let me start. Thank you very much, Sharaji, for inviting me to give you this talk. And thank you all the members of the Rotary Club Pune. It's my honor and my pleasure to be with you. So my main topic will be, as Achyut has mentioned, will be malt, beer and whiskey. So let me start with the raw material. Now you can make malt out of any cereal. You can make malt out of barley, wheat, ragi. You can make it out of rice. You can make it out of maize. You can make it out of quinoa. You can use any cereal to make malt. But barley is the choicest grain for making malt because it was abundantly available and it has been there since then. Though you can find beers made out of wheat and rye and rice all over the world and also sorghum, but malt, I mean, barley is still the most preferred of all the cereals. So now, what is malt? Malt is basically a germinated cereal grain that has been dried. First it is germinated and then dried. It is basically similar to what you do in your house while you sprout beans or something. The process is more or less identical, except that we don't dry the sprouted beans, we eat them as it is. But in the malt, we tend to dry the grain. So the process starts with steeping. The first job we do is we clean the grain, we wash the grain, and then we put it into water and hydrate it. If you see on the screen, you can see this water and grain pouring from the top. So the mixture is continuously churned so that the washing takes place properly. Once the washing is through, the grains are immersed in water. They're left like that for about varying from 8 hours to maybe 20 hours till the right moisture content is received. Once the steeping is over, the grain is then shifted to what we call germination vessels. In the germination vessels, we have very controlled temperatures and humidity. And the growth of the grain starts in the germination vessel. The time taken in the germination is roughly 4 to 5 days. We have to keep the temperatures very low, otherwise we will get very long rootlets and shoots. We don't want to do that. We don't want to waste our grain into shoots and roots. So we have to control the temperatures at very low levels. Once the germination is over, as you can see on this screen, this is the steeping process, It is hydrating. Now step 2 is the germination. During germination, we have to keep churning the material. Once if you don't churn the material, it tends to form a mat, which will restrict the airflow to come from the bottom. Normally, we pass humid and cold air from the bottom to keep the temperatures, and we have to remove the carbon dioxide produced during germination and have sufficient oxygen in the system so that there is no deterioration on the grain. During the process of germination, the grain enzymes inside the grain gets activated. The purpose of the enzyme is to convert starch into sugars and also the proteins into amino acids in the growth of the kernel. So basically what we are doing is we are trying to use this biochemical process of the grain and trying to slow down the process so that we do not use the entire starch for the growth of the grain, but we should develop enough enzymes which can convert the starch to sugars. Once this is done, we then dry the material in the kiln. This process will stop the further growth of the grain and it will make the enzymes dormant. And these enzymes will only work when they get enough moisture. In the kiln, we bring down that moisture level to around 3.5. And during kilning, we can take the temperatures as high as 80 degrees Celsius. The idea is to give flavor to the grain. So the temperature is a very big play, how you give flavor to the grain. If you give too much high temperature in the beginning, we get very dark colors and very malty or crystal type of malt. If you do it at a later stage, we get more chocolatey type of. So this varies, you know, with the way we process. And the different type of malts which are available in the market are amber malt, caramel malt, coffee malt, crystal malt, pale ale malt, pilsner malt, wheated malt, roasted wheat malt, and roasted wheat. The idea is that we have to, all these, most of the malt used in the world is pilsner malt or lager malt, because most of the beer sold is lager beer, and also ale malt, because second largest selling is ale beer. The idea of this is that you can play around with these different type of malts. Nowadays, you have a lot of microbreweries who play around with these flavors to give you different type of beers. So basically, now we have malt which has got all the enzymes in it, and this malt is then shipped to the breweries. So once you go to the brewery, the main ingredients are malt, water, hops, and yeast. Hops is basically a flower type of material grown on a plant normally in cold temperatures. The hops provide all the bitterness to the beer and also the flavor. There are two types of hops, mostly highly bitter or highly aromatic. So in the process of brewing, the brewer decides what his recipe is and selects his hop. Similarly, yeast plays a very major role in the fermentation. Different yeast will give different kind of flavors to the beer. There are two types of yeast mainly. One is bottom fermenting and one is top fermenting. The bottom fermenting will make lager beers, and top fermenting are mostly used for making ale type of beers. So in the process of making beer, the first step is milling of the malt. The malt is crushed in roller mills or in hammer mills. Mostly roller mills are the ones which are used. Hammer mills are now used in very modern breweries. The idea is that you crush it in such a way that you don't crush the husk too much, but the inside of the grain should get crushed. The husk then later on acts as a filter media for separation of the liquid which we are going to generate after adding water. So once the milling is over, this grist is then transferred into what we call a mash tun along with hot water. This process is known as mashing. The temperature of the water and the pH of the water is adjusted so that we get the right type of environment for the enzymes to break the starches and the proteins to smaller molecular weight sugars and amino acids. Also, there are many other natural enzymes which are produced like beta-glucanase, lipases and all, which also convert most of them into smaller molecular weights compounds. Once this process is complete, and we test for starch negative. Normally we do an iodine test. We take the mash, we put some iodine in it. If the color doesn't turn black, that means the starch has been converted to sugar. Once that is done, this thing is taken into a lauter tun. Lauter tun is basically a vessel with a false bottom, which is a sieve, as you can see in this photograph. This sieve retains the husk and lets the liquid go down. I'll show you the diagram of this. This is a lauter tun, typical lauter tun. There are rakes here, and there is a false bottom, and then we have this bed here. Once the liquid is taken out, we keep circulating it till we get a very clear liquid. We want very bright type of wort. The liquid which comes out is known as wort. So we want very bright wort. Once the wort is out, we start sparging with water. The idea to sparge is to extract all the remaining sugars or whatever is left in the husk. I mean, basically, it is to improve the efficiency of the brewery. This rake is normally turned around to level the grains, and secondly, also in case the bed tends to set, if you leave it for a very long time, it makes a packed column, so nothing will flow out. So these rakes are then turned to loosen the bed. Once we have this wort, then this wort is taken into what we call boiling kettles or boilers. Here we add the hops. Either we add hop extract or we add hop flowers as it is. You can see on top of the screen some hop flower, photograph of a hop flower. We add the flowers as it is, or we can add pellets of this flower because sometimes the flower is bulky and transportation is expensive. So it is converted into pellets, or some people now even extract the alpha acids and flavor from these hops and just add that to the mash kettle. to the wort kettle. Once this is boiling is done, two things happen. One is the hops gets absorbed into the wort. Second thing is the proteins in the wort, part of that gets coagulated here. So these proteins are removed in what we call a whirlpool or a centrifuge. The idea is to reduce the protein, because if you have more proteins, then the protein kind of develops haze in the beer. You find certain beers very cloudy. That is mostly due to protein. So this is a typical whirlpool photograph. So all these particles are then removed, and this wort which comes out is taken to the fermenters. In the fermenters, first the wort is cooled. It is brought down to below 10 degrees Celsius. Then we add the yeast in it and let the material ferment for about 3 to 4 days. Here the sugars get converted to alcohol and carbon dioxide. Once we keep checking the gravity of the wort, once we find that all the starches have been converted to alcohol, that means our beer is ready. The CO2 is normally taken out and collected and stored separately, which is later on again pumped back into the beer to give it the fizz. So after fermentation, we have to mature this beer. This beer is still called green beer. It needs to go to maturation stage. So here the beer is left at low temperatures in 2 vessels for about, it can vary from 3 weeks to 7 weeks. And some of the flavors keep developing here because the yeast is still in contact with the wort, and so some of the reactions are still going on. Once the maturation is over, we can transfer the beer to what we call cellars or cellaring, and it is left there till it is packed. So once this whole process is over, the CO2 which is collected there is pumped back into the beer, and beer can be either sent for bottling or kegging or whatever. Like in microbreweries, you can straight away take it to the tap for drinking. So it's your choice what you do. Now, there are different types of beer, as I told you. There are lagers, there are ale beers, there are wheat beers, there is stout beer. Now, lagers are mostly made out of light colored malt. Ales are made out of dark colored malt with crystal malt. Wheat beers are made out of wheat malt and barley malt. And stout is basically made from roasted barley, roasted malt, and normal malt. Stout is normally very thick and has a very thick foam on top. But other beers also have thick foam, but stout is generally very thick. And the Guinness beer, which is very popular stout, is normally, instead of CO2, they pump nitrogen into it. So nitrogen tends to make very fine bubbles as compared to CO2. So you have a very thick foam and very creamy kind of foam on top of the stout beer. In Africa, a lot of beer is made out of sorghum because sorghum is easily available. Even in India, we have a lot of sorghum, but we don't use it for beer. And that makes a very hazy kind of beer, but it is very refreshing. So this is the process of making beer. Now we come to the process of making whiskey. So we'll talk about single malt whiskey and blend. Making whiskey is almost similar to the process of making beer. See, the first few stages are very similar. We take the malt, crush it, put it in a mash tun, or we let the sugars starches get converted to sugar. Then we pass it through a lauter tun. We remove the wort. But instead of boiling the wort, or instead of adding hops to the wort, this wort is straight away sent to the fermenters. You see, this is a typical photograph of a lauter tun. This is a fermenter. This is covered with wooden planks. It is basically for insulation and to give it some aesthetic looks. Otherwise, the inside is mostly stainless steel. And on the right, you see this distillation stills, which are always made of copper. And on the right, you see the wooden oak wood kegs where the whiskey is matured into these casks. So this is what the grist looks like. This is the malt, then the grist, then the husk, then the fine part, and then the very fine part, which is the flour. This is a typical photograph of a lauter tun. You can see the mash in the stage. You can see the grist along with water and the rakes moving around. And these are typical fermenters. In the fermenters, it takes about 3 to 4 days. The fermentation in a whiskey, malt whiskey, is normally done at a slightly higher temperature, like around 25 to 27 degrees Celsius. Whereas beer fermentation is done at very low temperatures. Yeast which is used in whiskey making is very different from the yeast which we use for making beer. Similar to beer, every distillery has its own type of yeast. Like the brewers have their own type of yeast. So that imparts a typical flavor to their product. These are some of the pot stills. There are two-stage distillation. The fermented wort which comes down is known as a wash. That is distilled in the first one. From here we get spirit, which is about 20 to 40% alcohol. This spirit is known as low wine, which is then further distilled from another, the second still, to get alcohol around 62% volume by volume alcohol. This is a typical sample safe where the distiller would stand and all the distilled spirit will come here and he will keep tasting it. And depending on if he likes it, he will pass it on to the production side or maturation side. If he doesn't like it, he will recycle it back into the pot still. These are some of the different type of pot stills. The shape of the pot still will determine what kind of spirit you make. If the neck of the pot still is very long, that means the reflux will be much more. So once the reflux is high, you get very light spirits in the end, because most of the heavier molecular weight compounds will reflux back into the still. And in case of short neck, you get very heavy kind of alcohol or more densely flavored alcohol, like Lagavulin or Talisker and things like that. Those type of whiskies are made normally with a short neck, and some of the Glenmorangie type of ones are made with a long neck. Once this alcohol is ready, we take it to the oak cask and we leave it to mature. Normally the casks which are used are not new casks, they are once used casks which have been earlier used for keeping sherry or keeping bourbon. The idea is that it will give a mix of flavors, from those. The wood absorbs those flavors and then it imparts it back to the spirit. So it is left in the cask for, depending on minimum regulation in Scotland is 3 years, but it can stay from 3 years to 40 years old, depending on what the distillery wants to make. Every year there is a loss of alcohol because of evaporation. In India, it is about 8 to 10% a year. In Scotland, it must be about 2 to 3% a year. So the longer you mature, the more expensive it starts becoming because of two reasons. One is your finance cost, storage cost, and then loss of alcohol. Once this is out, then we filter it. Some of the Indian single malts are Amrut and Paul John, and Scotch whisky is the one which is a single malt or a malt whisky made in Scotland. And of course, Black Label is a blended malt whisky, which can be either a blend of different malt whiskies or it can be a blend of grain spirit along with the malt whisky. So this is in brief how the industry works. So now I think if you have any questions, you can ask me.
Pramil,
Yeah.
I have a basic question.
Yeah.
What is the right way of pouring beer into a glass?
Right way of pouring beer is you just pour it straight into the glass.
Because some people
Normally people, what they do is we keep the glass in a tapered form to avoid the foam. But the foam is very important for the beer, it gives it a nice look, plus what we say in beer is that a good beer will leave a mark on the glass, you know. So the foam leaves a cling, what we call a cling or a lace on the glass. So in fact, a very good beer is where you can count the number of sips you have finished your beer in. For every sip will leave a mark on the glass. So you know you have finished your beer in 20 sips or 10 sips. So, but here, you know, people tend to pour it with inclined glass to save any beer from pouring out or falling out. You know. So, that is not the right way to pour a beer. Not that it matters. It is just you don't get a good foam.
Good to waste, no?
Yeah. So the look of the beer is not very interesting. You know, if you have a flat beer.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah,
Jindal
please.
Sir?
Yeah, please.
Do you still import malt or you use Indian barley?
No, we mostly use Indian barley. Sometimes we do import. You see, in India, we don't have too much of pure varieties because our farmers are very small in size. Therefore, most of the barley which comes in the market is of mixed variety. But certain brewers like to have their barley of one particular variety. So they tend to import their barley. For example, Budweiser in India, they are importing their barley. Carlsberg is importing their barley. Heineken is importing their barley, but most of the Indian beers like Kingfisher Ultra, Kingfisher, or Foster, or you can say Royal Challenge, or whatever other beers are made in India are normally made from local barley.
Why is
Can I ask a
stout?
question, please?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
The Indian beer, I believe, is added with some glycerin as a
No,
preservative.
that is a myth actually. Nobody adds glycerin to a beer. So there is no glycerin in beer. In fact, when the yeast is fermenting, sometimes some glycerides are formed, but that is very small quantity. It doesn't really matter. No glycerin is added to beer.
Then what's the difference between draft beer and the bottled beer?
Draft beer is normally non-pasteurized beer, which comes once you're pasteurizing the beer and bottling it, then it becomes a bottled beer. Draft beer is what you get straight from the keg. When you pasteurize the beer, you raise the temperature and then you cool the temperature. You bring the temperature down to kill any microorganism. Therefore, the life of a bottled beer could be 1 year, but the life of draft beer will never be more than 3-4 weeks. It starts spoiling, you know, because you have not pasteurized it. But the flavor of draft beer will be much better because that heat shock you give to the beer tends to deteriorate the flavor a little bit. You know.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I have a question.
Yes, please.
In India, why is stout beer not popularly available?
I think the Indians have a taste to have some sweet. Indians have a sweet tooth, let me put it this way. Even the beer which we are selling in India, if you taste the normal Indian lager and you compare it to a German lager, you'll find Indian lager slightly sweeter than a German lager. Because if they make it very bitter, Indians don't like it. So many bitter beers, which were very good quality beers, did not do very well in India. And they had to later on reduce the bitterness content. Same is the reason with stout. People don't like to drink stout in India because it's very bitter. In India, bitter is not really considered as a taste, you know. Very few people would like to eat Karela or, you know, things like that. But in Europe, bitterness is a taste. Sorry?
They make it bitter by adding more hops.
Yeah, they add bitter hops. And in stout beer, they add roasted barley, which also add to the bitterness.
Is there any shelf life for whiskey? Any shelf life?
No. Whiskey doesn't have any. You only will lose the alcohol content. The longer you keep, it will keep evaporating, you know. So if your bottle is not tightly closed, then after 3 years, you will have only water left in it, you know. So.
No, but if it's a sealed bottle,
nothing will go wrong. Even if you keep it for 20 years, nothing will go wrong. But it will not mature in a bottle. If you think you're drinking after 10 years, it will not be a 10-year-old.
Yeah, that's fair.
It will be a 3-year-old whiskey. Yeah.
Right.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Please, yeah.
Question is, if I give you 1 ton of barley, would you be more profitable making beer or making whiskey?
Well, that depends. You know, if I make a good whiskey which can sell at a premium, then definitely whiskey making will be profitable, because cost of making a cheap whiskey and a very expensive whiskey is the same.
Yeah.
So definitely making whiskey will be more profitable, but then you have to have the patience to keep it for 4 years, 5 years.
Oh, that's the. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And if you make the beer, you can sell it almost next day.
Not really next day. It is better to mature it for 4 5 weeks. That will give it a added flavor.
Yeah.
You know? If you can drink it the next day, but it won't taste that good.
But Pramil,
I had been to a factory.
Sorry?
No, Pramil, you said cost of making cheap whiskey and expensive whiskey is same.
No, it's not very different. You see, if you buy a bottle of, say, cheap malt whiskey, say 2,000 rupees a bottle, and you buy a bottle of very expensive whiskey, 5,000 rupees a bottle. The price delta, which is 3,000 rupees, is not the cost to the distiller. It is the brand name and the way he has matured it. You see, he has spent a lot of money and time in maturing it and, you know, taking the risk of leaving it in the cask. So he needs more money, you know, to do that. Yeah?
Pramil, this is Vikas here.
Yeah,
I have
please.
one quick question.
Yeah.
You know, the Scotch whiskey which is made in Scotland is called Scotch.
Yeah.
Whereas anywhere in the world, it cannot be termed as Scotch. Is that true? And if
Yeah,
so,
that is true. You know, it is that they have got it branded like that. Like, for example, basmati rice you cannot make anywhere else except in India. Like champagne you cannot make anywhere else except in the district of Champagne. So it is a patent which they have done, and world is agreeing to that. So if, like, Paul John is a very good malt whiskey, but they can't call it Scotch because it's not made in Scotland.
okay. Thank you.
What do you mean by single malt whiskey?
Single malt whiskey is normally made by one typical type of malt, and they do not blend it with any other whiskey. Normally, if you buy a blended whiskey, so what the distiller does is he'll take 3-4 types of spirit, he'll blend it and get the right aroma. But in the single malt, the art is that every time you have to get it right from the single type of alcohol. You don't have a choice to play around with it. So it is more artistic to make a single malt whiskey than to make a blended. In blend, you can keep changing the, you know, different blends, you know, you can keep changing the percentage and get the right flavor. But in a single malt, if you go wrong, you go wrong.
Is it a reason why single malt is expensive?
Yeah, normally, you know, single malts are expensive, yes. Blended malts are easier to make. You can even add grain spirit into a blended whiskey. Nobody is going to challenge that. But if you are selling a single malt, you cannot add grain spirit. Now, grain spirit you can buy in India at 50 rupees a liter. So, you don't want to drink that.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is said that the Scotch tastes better because of water in that area.
You see, they market it like that. But yes, water may be adding certain flavors to the whiskey. But in India, most of the whiskey is made from DM water, you know, demineralized water. So we remove all the minerals. Whereas in Scotland, some of the distillers would use a water coming from that spring, which is nearby spring or whatever, you know, like, so they try to market it. It's like a story, you know, you sell a story with a product. So they tried, like we sell Himalayan water from, if somebody can sell spring water in India, you know, mineral water made from some spring in Himalayas. So it's basically a story, you know, I don't think it really makes much difference, but it's a marketing technique. You know.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I have a question, sir.
Yeah.
Is single malt from India as good as from Scotland?
Yeah, you can try it yourself. I mean, you don't have to ask me.
How would you rate?
I rate some of the whiskies very high, like Paul John, I rate a very high whiskey. Even Amrut Fusion is a very good whiskey. You can try them. They are more or less at par. In fact, if you give somebody a blind tasting of a Paul John along with maybe a Glenlivet or a Glenmorangie, and you ask him which one is from Scotland, he will most probably say both.
Oh.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
I find even Rampur as a good whiskey.
Yes,
Yeah, Rampur is also good. This is becoming popular now.
But it's sold only abroad.
Yeah, they do tend to sell a little bit in India, but mostly abroad. Yeah, you see, the marketing technique is that first you take the whiskey out of India, because in India, if you try to sell a whiskey, you cannot advertise. Advertisement of alcohol is banned in India. So what they're doing is they're taking the whiskey out of India, advertising it there, then making it popular in the Indian population outside India. And then by word of mouth, it comes back into India.
Oh.
It is unfortunate, but that's how it is working out.
Yeah.
Beer in a can or beer in a bottle, which is better?
Well, bottle, if it is kept in dark, if not kept in sunlight, then it will give you a better beer. But can mein kya hota hai, there's no light tends to destroy the beer. If you keep the beer in sunlight, it tends to change the flavors of the beer. But if you can keep it in dark, then it is all right. But in can, the problem is that can, sometimes the lining of the can imparts a flavor to the beer. So you have to be very careful. The can selection has to be very good. Whereas glass bottle will not impart any flavor to the beer.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have a question. What is the concept behind selling these cubes, rock cubes? They sell in Scotland.
Yeah.
That is, they sell actually rock cubes.
Yeah, you see, the idea is that you don't dilute your whiskey. You chill those rocks and then you pour whiskey on top of it. So you don't, if you add ice, then the ice will dissolve and your whiskey gets diluted. So you have rocks which will not dissolve, and then you have a whiskey which will maintain its strength, right from sip 1 to the last sip.
Okay.
I have a question actually. Yes. It is not related to final product, but the process actually.
Yeah.
I make the enzymes like with the fruit peels and adding sugar and yeast. So I use them daily, like in my at home. But can you tell me the process that happens and how much alcohol can be formed in that? Is there alcohol formed if I keep it for 3 months? I add sugar yeast to the fruits, and natural yeast is present on the skin and all the fruits and vegetables. So what is the final product? I don't know the final product ingredients. What can be formed after 3 months?
Just you see, if you add sugar and yeast, and you have enough moisture in it,
yes,
then definitely the yeast will ferment the sugars to alcohol. So and also that alcohol during fermentation will also extract some of the flavors from your vegetables and fruits what you are adding.
Yes.
Maybe not even flavors, maybe some other compounds also.
Sweet, yes.
So, but the fermentation process will be over within maybe less than a week. After that, it will
3 months for me.
No, it depends. Maybe you are not diluting it enough. The fermentation process will be over. Then some other reactions will start taking place. But the process of making sugar to alcohol should be over within maximum a week.
No, it takes 3 months because the carbon dioxide keeps on coming. I have to remove it all the time.
So then you are not maybe diluting it too much.
10 times I dilute, 10 times.
Well, I have no experience on that, but normally the fermentation process, if the yeast is good enough, it should do the job within 1 week or so.
It's the natural yeast which is present, but
but you don't know what is the concentration of that yeast on the skin,
Yes.
And maybe it has also got other bacteria on the skin.
Yes.
So they are also producing maybe some lactic acid, lactobacillus is there, which is producing lactic acid also.
Lactic acid.
So you may get very sour kind of drink,
Okay. So alcohol content in that will be very less.
Depends on how much sugar you have added, If you have added, say 10% sugar to that, then alcohol content will be quite good.
Okay. I take 1:3:10.
Well, I don't really know that technology.
Okay.
But to be very honest, it is maybe your own experiment. But definitely alcohol will be produced based on the sugar you have. But if you keep it very long, maybe the alcohol gets converted to something else. I don't know what type of recipe you are using. So,
okay.
So I won't be able to comment on it.
Another question, Jindal sir.
Yeah, please.
how important is the yeast strain, and what makes different yeast strains different from each other?
No, there are so many yeast strains, you know, it's what they make different from each other. I can't comment because it's like human beings, you know, we are all different to each other. So it's different yeast will tend to give different flavors. Like some yeast can work up to a alcohol content of maybe 15%. Most of the yeast will not go up to that. They will just die, you know. Once the alcohol content goes above 7-8%, the yeast tends to die, you know. But in case of certain yeast, they may even survive 12%, 13% alcohol. So it depends, you know, some yeast will give a very aromatic beer, some yeast will give very estery kind of, you know, beer. So it depends on what kind of yeast the brewer is selecting. Because once his beer becomes popular, he cannot change the yeast strain. Otherwise, the whole beer will change.
Yes.
So like Carlsberg has their own yeast. It's known as Carlsberg yeast. It's a patented yeast. Nobody else can use it.
beer.
Sorry?
Well, I have a question.
Yes, please.
You also make Bournvita in one of your plants.
Yeah.
So what is that process like?
You see, what we do is when you are making beer, you collect that wort in which you are boiling hops and, you know. So instead of boiling hops, we take that wort and we concentrate it. Once we concentrate that, it contains only sugars, proteins and things like that. So we have not converted the sugar to alcohol. We just concentrate it. And that product is known as malt extract. That extract we add to cocoa, we add milk, and we add vitamins and different minerals. And then we dry that product under vacuum. So that is known as Bournvita or any other malted milk food. It could be Horlicks, it could be Boost. The recipe is different, but malt extract is the base.
Yeah.
So you covered 4 types of beer, but you didn't talk about Pilsner.
You see, Pilsner and
We
lager
have
are
been
almost
using
similar kind of beers, you know. Pilsner
Pilsner
and
and
lagers
lager.
are almost similar kind of beers. So
Hello?
if you want to really try good beers, then you should go to Belgium. They make very good beers with different kind of flavors and all. You know, they have small breweries owned by monks, and they make excellent beers. You know, very, very aromatic beers.
Yes.
And if you really want to see people drinking beer, you should visit Oktoberfest.
Yes.
So,
Munich.
if anybody has been there, he would know what it is like, you know.
Yeah.
It is a real beer festival.
Right.
I think we had a lot of inquisitiveness in today's session. It's a topic which is very close to the hearts of most of the Rotarians. For the short of time, I think we can take few more questions and then we can proceed further. Anybody else? Satish, you wanted to ask some question, I suppose.
Yes. I want to just ask him, not related to today's topic, but overall any drink like wine or cognac has got life or no?
Sorry, I couldn't get you. Wine and cognac.
No, what I want to ask you, here you said any other drink like wine, for example, has got any shelf life, or there is no shelf life?
Cognac doesn't have a shelf life. Cognac you can keep for as long as you like, but wine will tend to deteriorate.
Wine?
You know, wine will deteriorate if you keep it very long. It may deteriorate. You know, cognac nothing will happen to cognac.
But wine, how many years you can keep?
Well, it depends, you know, how well it has been made and how well it has been bottled, and also how you keep it. If you keep it in vertical, the cork will dry, and within a year or two, the wine will evaporate, or the alcohol and lactic acid formation will take place. But if you keep it inclined like you do it in cellars,
Okay.
then the cork will stay wet and it won't let any evaporation take place. So it depends how you keep it, you know. There's no point keeping a poor quality wine for a very long period. You know. It doesn't. You're just wasting time and money.
I agree. Okay. Okay.
On the same line,
Cognac basically is a distilled wine. You make wine and you remove the alcohol. That is cognac. Or brandy, you know. If it is.
on the same line, in fact, I want to know about rum also. Whether that also has got some. What is the shelf life? Rum.
I couldn't get your question.
Rum. He is talking of rum.
Rum doesn't have a shelf life. You can keep it as long as you like.
Okay.
Rum is mostly made from molasses. It is alcohol made out of molasses. Also, some people use grain for it, and then they add caramel to it to give it that color and taste. But basically, it is a spirit from molasses.
Okay. Thank you.
One question from my side, Pramil.
Yes, please.
Somehow the wine culture has not set in the country. Any specific reason? Indians don't
You
like
see,
wine?
I think, I mean, it is my personal view. You see, wine has been mostly consumed along with food.
Yes.
It is not a social drink like, I mean, it is now a social drink, but like beer, you sit with friends and have beer and maybe not necessarily have a meal with them. But wine, you generally find people blending it with food, you know.
Yes.
With fish, you may like to have some typical type of red wine, or with chicken, you might like to have some white wine or red wine. So it is basically, so in Indian food, we have so much of spices that we don't need any acid to digest that food. Whereas in Europe, their food is very bland, and to digest that food, they need acid, you know. So maybe that acidic nature of wine helps them to digest that food. But in India, we don't really need that acid, you know, to digest the food. So in India, that is why wine is not very popular in India. Because it doesn't gel with our food, you know. If you have wine with a curry, it doesn't make sense.
Okay. I think.
But it is picking up. Wine is picking up. The growth of wine is quite good. Though the base is very small, but the growth rate is quite good.
Because when you go to a shop in US or any country and you see so many wines, you feel you are a fool. You don't know what to select, right from $10 to
you see, because
$2,000.
their food is such, you know, they have to digest that food. Maybe the stomach acids are not enough, you know, they need some more acid. So they drink it with wine with the food, so that wine helps in digestion of that, you know, whatever meat and all they eat. So I think that is the reason.
I think we are already exceeding the time today. Pramil, may I request you to make me the host once again?
Yeah, one sec. How do I do that now? You have to tell me again.
No, go to participants.
Yeah, I've done that, yeah.
And you see my Sharad.
1 minute. Yeah, I've seen that, yeah.
And then you
make host, yeah. Okay. Got it now?
Yes, yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think if time would have permitted, people would have asked you more questions. Like
you're most welcome.
Like your address in, so that people could come and then enjoy the physical meeting also.
Yeah. Next time I'm in Pune, I'll make it a point to come and meet you guys physically.
Yeah.
And we
Sure,
can
sure. Most welcome. You are most welcome.
Have a
you are most
get together at Achut's house.
Yes.
Maybe wherever.
Yeah.
And it'll be my pleasure to meet you all.
Yes.
It has been nice to interact.
Yes.
It has been nice to interact with you people.
Yeah. So now I request Vikas to propose vote of thanks. Over to you, Vikas. You please unmute yourself and go ahead.
Yes. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible. You can switch on your video, Vikas.
Right. Yeah, Mr. Pramil Jindal, we thank you for your, very, very valuable time, as well as technically educating our members. on a subject which is dear to male spouses mainly. But today, it seems that from the questions that were provoked, and I'm sure most of them came from the aunt's side, but asked by their spouses, shows, that we must thank you doubly.
Well, thank you. Thanks a lot.
The reason being the knowledge that you imparted is so invaluable, and I'm sure it would help both husband and wife to sit down together, more so in this pandemic situation, and enjoy the evening more often than what we normally. We really appreciate for imparting this peaceful time in our homes. This of course, this particular industry, portable ethanol industry, I call it as, dates back to many centuries, and I'm sure today it is still considered as an art than a science. But you really imparted that knowledge to us, and goes to show your expertise in this field, and we really appreciate that. Of course, it calls for a very long round of applause from all of us, and we wish BARTMART to achieve a greater heights in your leadership. And as Achut already called you Malt of King in India, but I'm sure it would be shortly Malt King Universe. Thanks again. Thanks again. And on last but personal note, visit your alma mater next year, which is Scotland, which is completing 200 years.
Yes,
So please do visit London. Give us a shout from Heathrow, and we will be there. We have a good host there.
Thank you, Vikas. Thanks a lot.
Over to you, Secretary or President.
Yeah, Vikas, thank you very much for the kind invitation that you gave to Pramil, and thanks a lot for the vote of thanks. Before I announce next week's program, I would request for the next week's program, I would like to acknowledge Mr. Anand Joshi, who has been attending our club meetings regularly. Anand, thank you for attending today's session also. Now over to Shirish for the next week's program.
आणि हे नाक, हे हात आणि हे पाय. तुझे हात कुठे? मीरचा हात कुठे?
Hello. Hello. Yeah. Over to Shirish for announcement of next week's program. Shirish.
Yeah, Shirish here. नमस्कार मित्रांनो. पुढच्या सोमवारी म्हणजे 21 तारखेला आपल्याकडे पाहुणे म्हणून येणार आहेत रोटेरियन मकरंद टिल्लू. सर्वांना भाषण चालू असतात त्यावेळेकडून आपल्याला त्यांनी वेळ दिलेला आहे. त्यांचा विषय लाफ्टर योगा असा आहे आणि हा विषय ऐकायला आवडेल. या पुढच्या सोमवारी 21 तारखेला अशाच मोठ्या so much.
Thank you, Shirish. Today's attendance: 55 Rotarians, 43 ants, 6 guests, total 104. This meeting is adjourned. So now all of us can interact formally, informally with Pramil sir. Formally, informally, sir. Whatever leftover questions we can ask if there are any.
Yeah, leftover questions. I have one thing. If Pramil is still there, what is the rate of growth of, let's say, whiskey consumption in India today? When I left 20 years ago, it was jumping, almost doubling every year.
Hello.
I think Pramil has left.
Technical.
Oh, he has left? Okay, fine, no problem. Thank you. I'll leave it there.
Okay.